Welcome to Football Discussion Daily. My name is Joe, and I'm here with the co-host,
PGO.
CGO, or George. Today is the 23rd of March, 2026. And just a quick reminder, if you like us, please subscribe. We release long form every day on YouTube, short term on Instagram, TikTok, and other platforms. Today was a rather slow news day, so there's two things George and I are going to talk about. Number one, Pep Guardiola, 40th trophy. What is his legacy? Me and George will talk about what our perception are on, is he a checkbook manager? Is he great? Is he tactically innovative? Love to hear your thoughts too. Number two, PSG requested a fixture move for Lens in between. They placed Lens, who they're facing in a title race, in between the two Liverpool games. And they've requested that they can skip that so they have no games in between Liverpool so that they can play Liverpool, 7-day rest, play Liverpool again. George, what are your thoughts? Let's start with PSG. Do you feel like this is above board for PSG? Do you feel like this is something that, Premier League, do you feel like this is okay?
For me, I think they are beginning to abuse it now because if you did that against Chelsea and then you are planning to do it again when you play Liverpool, I don't think it's fair on RC Lens because RC Lens are also competing to win the French Ligue 1. So if you try to move your fixture so that you can have more rest to play Liverpool, then it's going to affect RC Lens. And that's one of the points RC Lens is saying, that if the French FA reschedules the game they're supposed to play against PSG, is going to make them to have a very tight schedule if that is done. So which means it's going to affect them because they are in the title race. So it's not fair if that is done. I know they are trying to PSG
George,
are trying to.
it's also not fair. Premier League has one fixture in every slot most weekends, and they get so much more money than France, and then these French teams have to do what they need to do in order to get money. And I feel like this is one of them, and they're helping out their own. And there was once upon a time where Premier League was not as good as Italy and Spain. I mean, even 5 years ago, they probably weren't as good as the Spanish league, and they had to do what they had to do in order to compete. And I feel like France is doing what they need to do to be relevant and supporting the one club who can bring up their coefficient and bring more money to the league all around. As good as the title race is for France, a Champions League run is even better financially.
But don't you think they are doing it at the expense of RC Lens, who are in competition with PSG?
George, there's no solution that has zero victim. And yes, yes, you're right. It is. But at the end of the day, RC Lens is going to get more money from moving the fixture than they would, and they're going to be able to be more competitive. And I do believe that this will be a rising tide lifts all boats situation for France in general, and that I think it's okay. And yes, it's not perfect for RC Lens, but they're not. This isn't like they're not like basically being deducted points. Like they're still going to play the game. PSG is still going to have to win the title on the field. They're still going to have to make a Champions League run. They'd probably beat Liverpool without this. That's what I'm going to say. Like they're 90% to beat Liverpool without this fixture change. PSG still has to win League One on the pitch. That's at the end of the day. I don't see what RC Lens. It's not ideal, but let's not act like they're being completely shafted here.
Because the point they are making is that it will, if you now shift it now, it's going to make the games they will be playing to be more crowded, which is not supposed to be. That's going to impact on the players. So I feel they have a right.
PSG has Champions League games that RC Lens doesn't have. Is that unfair for them to compact their picture list?
But everybody will speak in a way that it favors them. So that's what RC Lens is trying to do because they want to win the League One. Because mind you, when they win the League One, there's a prize money for the clubs that wins the French League One. So if they are fighting and trying to talk to the federation not to do that, I think they have every right to do that because it's unfair to them if we are being honest here. I know the French authority federation are trying to see how they can help PSG at least go verify in the Champions League. But if you look at it one way or the other, it's going to affect ROC Lens, and somehow I don't know if Liverpool fans or Liverpool will be happy with that kind of stuff because
Why should Liverpool should stay? If Liverpool is not, they're not complaining when they get all this extra money from Premier League TV, the crazy Premier League schedule. Like, I don't feel any sympathy for a Premier League team complaining about TV schedules, because Premier League gets more TV money. Like, the relegated team gets more money than the second biggest team in France. Um, like Wolves this year are going to get more money than than RC Lens or Marseille or from TV. It's just crazy how much Premier League gets, and it's because of the staggered TV schedule. It's because you have to go to Europe on a Thursday and come back on a Sunday morning and play. It's because of all of that EPL get money. I feel zero guilt for them. So it's interesting. We disagree. Let's move on. I think it was a great discussion. George, second question: Pep Guardiola, 40th trophy. He still trails Sir Alex Ferguson by a couple. Obviously, Ferguson coached a lot more years. I think in the last 20 years, I'd be shocked. I'm pretty sure Pep Guardiola has the most, at least since he started coaching. Was it 18 years ago? He took 1 year off, so he's been coaching, I think, 17 years, if that sounds right. But George, what do you think his legacy is? Do you feel like he's an innovator? Do you feel like he's a checkbook manager? Do you feel like he could still do it at a smaller club? What are your thoughts?
well, there are people who always try to criticize Pep Guardiola when it comes to spending money. But what I keep telling people is we've seen managers who got so much money, they got a lot of money to sign players. And at the end of the day, they couldn't even produce any results. But Guardiola has consistently been producing results because imagine somebody who has been in management for 80 years and he has 40 titles. He has coached Barcelona. He did so well when he was at Barcelona. He has been to Bayern Munich. He did well, and he has been at Manchester City. I think 10 years now. And look at what he has achieved. I think he has won about 19 titles with at Manchester City. That is incredible. So Pep Guardiola has really done a lot. He's one of those coaches, let me say he's the coach who made it so important for goalkeepers to play with their foot. He has been that coach who always insists that any goalkeeper that must be in goal for him must be good when it comes to using his feet. So that's a very good one. And I think he has really revolutionized football, even though we have some critics that said that his style of football, tiki-taka, becomes so boring. You make the other team not to play. You get a lot of different views
No, I
on.
think George Tiki Taka. I mean, when Spain did it with, when he did it at Barcelona, he had Messi, so it definitely was never boring. I don't think when you watch Messi, you just, even that young, you felt excitement. When you watch Spain do it at international games, a little different, and especially 20 years ago, was a lot more different than club. I feel like they're converging a bit, but um, back then when it was Xavi and Iniesta just passing around and Alonso, and they didn't have Messi there, it was a little boring. The World Cup run for Spain in 2010 was a bit boring. I don't think they scored multiple goals in any knockout game. George, you can double check me if I'm wrong. I believe they were all 1-0. At least one went to extra time. It was not an exciting World Cup run. Brilliant soccer. I'm a soccer nut. I'll watch whatever. I also agree with you. Pep Guardiola, tactical genius. A lot of coaches. Chelsea has had 3 coaches in the last couple of years, all spend a lot of money and not become close to what Pep has accomplished. Even coaches like Mourinho have had as high highs as Pep, but his lows are much lower. Pep's worst season last season was still third place in the league. Could have gotten second. He didn't. I think last season was his first season not winning a trophy. George, I remember his first season. I remember that summer. I was like, 20 years old. It was probably only like my 5th or 6th season actually really watching European soccer. And I had seen that Barcelona team the previous year lose to Manchester United. Had a great Paul Scholes go in the Champions League. I'd seen a couple of their games. They got rid of Deco and Ronaldinho, who had been their best players for many years. And they got better somehow. Ronaldinho was like he had still had flashes of brilliance. This was before sports science and fitness. It was just so crazy to get rid of them. Messi was known to be a very good player that had the potential to be the best ever, but was not the best ever yet. That Barcelona team just wiped the floor with everybody after. I remember the first game they lost in 2008, 2009. I think it was to Huesca. Sorry, I'm saying that wrong. And then Pep turns around, completely revamps how they play. Very different team from 2007, 2008, 2008, 2009. And, he reinvented that team several times. He gotten Villa. I think the best iteration of that team was with David Villa on the team. Eto was good. Ibra was okay with that team. But David Villa was probably the best iteration of striker for me. I think 2011 Barcelona is the best team I've ever seen.
Yeah, but Joe, one of the questions I would like to ask you is, don't you think um, clubs that Guardiola has coached and became very successful while coaching those clubs, can we attribute that to the fact that those clubs gave him that freedom to get players he wants and to also get rid of the ones he doesn't want? Don't you think that has really helped him? Because we are seeing clubs like Chelsea now, Chelsea board, who just want to get coaches and then they don't want coaches to be involved when it comes to signing of players. They just want to get the players they want, and then your job is just to coach. Don't you think this the issue of giving the coach the freedom to sign and to get rid of the players he doesn't want has really helped Pep Guardiola's success?
Of course, the game has changed in 18 years. 18 years ago, it was the expectation that a coach would come in and get if he saw a player or two that's like, this guy doesn't fit my lifestyle, my play style, he'd get rid of him. I don't think it was the expectation for a first-time coach to get rid of two players who were integral to many trophies at Barcelona, including a two-time Ballon d'Or winner who I believe was like 28 at the time. When Pep getting rid of Ronaldinho was, and to be clear, Pep has talked about this, and so is Ronaldinho, and so is Messi. He said he was really worried about Messi, who was 20, getting into the party lifestyle that Ronaldinho was into, and this is the reason he got rid of Ronaldinho for Messi's development. I think it's really interesting, but I think that Pep has earned that right. The game has changed a lot, and so I do think that while Pep did that at Barcelona, he had a little less power at Bayern and Manchester City, just because the way clubs are structured has changed a lot. And clubs now have sports science departments who are analyzing players from all over the continent, and signings are now half data powered, half scouting powered, which the manager has a lot to say on the scouting side of things still. But there's such a partnership with data at all these big clubs that no manager will ever have the power of Ferguson or even Guardiola from 18 years ago. Is my thought.
So why do you think clubs have decided to go this path of trying to um, put people who will be in charge of recruitment without getting coaches involved? Why do you think they are going that route? Since we all know that when managers are fully involved in recruitment, we have gained more success when that method is being used compared to this.
In the last 20 to 30 years ago, George, these organizations were like worth like, 50 million to 100 million dollars, pounds, euros. They're all within 20%. These organizations have scaled up 10 to 20 fold in terms of their size, their maturity. That involves spending millions of dollars on smart data people. That we have access to data that we did not have. I know I'll take a good example. Brentford signing Igor Thiago. They noticed this guy was like off the charts in terms of how many chances he got on the end. He created. Other players were creating for him in Belgium. That data did not exist 20 years ago, and you kind of need to have a data department of tens or 20s of millions of dollars in order to even achieve that. And Liverpool, like, they did these same metrics with Salah, when he was at Roma and Fiorentina, that he was getting on the end of all these chances and not finishing. Of course, he signed for Liverpool, started finishing, and the rest is history. But there's all sorts of these metrics out there that these clubs are now capturing that inform scouting, and in a healthy club is a partnership. I feel like at Chelsea, one of the problems is that data has taken too much control over who they sign, and the coach doesn't have enough of a say, which is another problem. But there are still clubs out there where the manager has way too much say. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but there are several clubs in that scenario as well. George, it's just the data available, the maturity of these organizations. They basically are all Fortune 500 companies when it comes to the size, their turnover, their revenue, all of that.
Because what I'm thinking is that if there is a balance where you have all these informations, this data, and then the coach gets this information, is being briefed on maybe players' quality and stuff like that. And then the coach decides if this player is going to fit into his plan or his game plan or his tactical approach or stuff like that. I think that might be the best than trying to get coaches out of the way and just have certain people who are not into coaching decide who comes to the club, like what we see in Chelsea today. So that's my own opinion. I'm thinking coaches still need to be involved. That's why we call them managers. If you call them managers, then they should be involved when it comes to players recruitment and players that should leave the club.
Chelsea is not a healthy club. I mean, I think one of the best examples of a big club, another great example, I should say, because I do think Man City and Pep is a great example. But Jurgen Klopp in Liverpool, the first couple years when they signed Mane, Wijnaldum, these players were not world beaters at the time. Klopp turned them into world beaters. I think in a healthy club, it takes two yeses from both the data side and the coaching side in order to say, yes, we got to sign a player. There's a healthy agreement that either one of these can say no on a player, and that player is no longer, because I think that there's players like Nabil Fekir who failed a physical. I think the data department said we don't trust his medical side, and they pulled him even though they both agreed that they had wanted them. There are other situations where in that initial buildup of Liverpool where there was not a partnership, but every single player they went after, Fabinho, Alisson, Van Dijk, both the data and the coaching and scouting lined up. They went for the player, they got him, and they built one of the, in my opinion, one of the best teams in Premier League history. So
No, I agree with you. I think Liverpool were able to build a very strong team under Jurgen Klopp, and like you said, the data they were able to collect really helped, especially when it comes to helping a coach like Jurgen Klopp make decisions. So I think that is the best way to approach it. Get the data, analyze with the coach who is in charge, and then you make a decision, like you said, yes, yes, from both sides, not trying to sideline the coach and just tell the coach your job is just to coach the players, whatever players whichever player we bring in, your job is just improve the player. It's more like it's now like a business just for you to just groom players and then sell. It's not Chelsea we've always known. So that's the problem I think the new owners of Chelsea need to address. That is if they are willing to listen to the fans and to the supporters of the club.
yeah, let's not make this about George. This all started with a conversation about Pep Guardiola. I think we both agree that he's absolutely brilliant. And that he would have been, I think he would have been successful anywhere. I don't really think it's a knock that he only went to Bayern, Manchester City, and Barcelona. I think that those three clubs are hegemons because of Pep, as much as it is Pep went to them because he's good. So yeah, let me close out with sorry, George. Do you feel like it's a valid criticism of Pep Guardiola that he's only been at big clubs?
Well, that's one of the questions I was to ask you because a lot of people are beginning to question that no, he
I
has only
gave
been to big
I gave you
clubs.
my opinion, and no, I don't feel like that's valid criticism. I feel like it's lazy criticism, and it's people who go back and watch a season of Bayern Munich before he signed. Oh, that's the bad example. Go back and watch Manchester City or Barcelona the year before Pep Guardiola signed, and go watch their season afterwards. Because I watched almost every single game for both of those teams, and it's a completely different team. He came in, revolutionized. Manchester City won what 2 titles in 5-10 years post takeover before Pep, and has won 8 and 11 years since, or 7 and 10 years since, something like that.
No, he has won 19 trophies with Manchester City since he came in the past 10 years. I mean,
Very
10
impressive.
years. So that's very impressive. What I keep telling people is when you say that no, he should go to a small club, there's no way he can go to a small club because Pep Guardiola is of high value. So definitely big clubs will always come calling. And there's no way he will see a big club and say, no, let me go for a small club. So that argument to me doesn't hold water. That's the reality. So somebody like him, he has built his CV, he has made himself of high value. So most likely he will always end up going to a big club. Except maybe when things start going, maybe start dropping when it comes to his coaching career, then that's when maybe the big clubs might not be in need of him. But for now, it's only going to be big clubs because of
Both
what he has done.
both clubs he's left previously, he left in a much better spot than when he came. Bayern, of course, won the treble the year before he got there, but hadn't won the title in 3 or 4 years before that, and they lost 2 Champions League finals. And in a couple years before that treble season, and afterwards they've consistently, obviously one of the most consistent teams in Europe over the last decade since he left. So I think that's a lazy criticism. Barcelona, obviously, very successful in the last few. I guess it's been 13 years since Pep left. 14 years. Yeah. All right. Let me close out with our standard question. Number one: Do you, listener, feel like it's valid criticism of Pep Guardiola? He's never been at a small club. And number two, do you think it's fair? Do you think it's right? Do you understand? Do you feel like it's takes away from PSG's success if the French league helps them out and moves their TV fixtures around? Let us know your thoughts. Thank you for listening.